Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try that once again. Terribly sorry about the technical issues. My name is Steve Falconbridge. I'm joined on camera by VM the Wildebeest. We're coming to you live from Djuma in the Sabi Sands, where the sun has just come over the horizon. It is a cool and fresh 17, 18 degrees Celsius, 65 degrees Fahrenheit. We've got to get moving. We're out in search of all sorts of wonderful things. James Henry is out with David on drive and with Herbie on walk, so pay attention to that. We're going to be coming to you live from Djuma with all sorts of wonderful things. Please, as I've said before, hashtag Safari Live, send us your questions and comments, and otherwise follow us on the YouTube stream. Let us know what you would like to see. We are obviously in search of some cats. Herbie, and we dropped Herbie and Ralph off quite close to where we left tracks of Thandi and Kalamba yesterday. So we're moving around. We're going to check sort of more to the north. Now, there were some lions on the dam cam. We believe they're a bit further north than Djuma, but we'll go have a look anyway, and then we'll give Herbie a bit of assistance in that area. James Henry is going to be checking, I think, the southern section, and yes, what a morning it is going to be. Whew, it's fresh. And this is the time when you realize you've left your gloves in a box somewhere else. Chris Max, you'd like to see the male impala ratting? Well, we can quickly go and have a look at them. Is that a duiker or is that a aardvark? I think that must be a duiker. But from this distance, it is a duiker. Tiamat, you'd like to see some ellies? Well, I would love to show you some ellies as well. That little duiker walking through the long grass had its head down, and all I saw was the sort of barrel-like back. If that was an aardvark, we would have been over the moon. It's not often you get to see duikers on camera, hey, VM? They're always bolting. Yeah, or running around a leopard's mouth. You can hear a golden-tailed woodpecker calling there. Whee! Oh no, that is a fork-tailed drongo mimicking. What a cheeky bugger. There's a fork-tailed drongo on top of the tree at the back there. Let me just go through half a meter. There he flies. He was busy mimicking all sorts of things there. What a cheeky guy. Black-headed oriole. It is a good morning for birds. The birds are awake. They are trying to warm themselves up in this early morning. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like David is out on drive, and he did a wonderful day yesterday on his first solo. Let's go and see how he's doing this cold morning.
Hello everyone, and a very good morning from South Africa in the Sabi Kruger National Park. And my name is David, and on the camera is Sebastian, and another good looking gentleman with him is James Henry. I am trying to steal his smile because it's very contagious. Every time he smiles, I feel to smile the same way. And it's a rather chilly morning for me. When they talk of 18 degrees, back home in Kenya where I come from, we really do below 20. So 18, 17, I got about, 5 layers with me. And I'm still struggling to keep up the temperatures, but I will survive. Right, we have had lots of cold this morning. And hear that? Bubbles? Those are arrow-marked bablas on that tree there. I'm not sure it's a bushwheel or what tree that is, James. Yeah, James confirms with me. I'm still learning my trees, and he thinks I'm not doing badly off, and that's a bushwheel, and those are what you call the arrow-marked bablas. Interesting, we got so many types of bablas in Kenya, and they take off there. And before the bablas, we had all the squirrels making alarm calls, and we thought there could be something. So we are still trying to fall on those calls and find out what could have been. And Generally, we're going to make this loop here and see whether we might see Tandy or any other cat that will come and say good morning to us and good morning to you. So stay with us, don't go anywhere, and remember, this is a very interactive safari. Keep in touch with us on Twitter, #Safari Live, or you can us on the YouTube mainstream. In the meantime, there's a gentleman who is trying to make trucks the whole of Djuma.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome out here on the bushwalk, on the sunrise bushwalk to be specific. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we've got Craig, aka Batman. How's it, guys? Now, please don't forget to send us your questions and your comments on the YouTube live chat and on hashtag on Twitter, #Safari Live. Please send us your questions and your comments and get involved in this interactive bushwalk. Now, it is rather fresh this morning. We've come out quite far. We're in the search of Tandy and her little cub. Obviously, we'll be stopping for all sorts of little things along the way. But the tracks and signs are giving away a little bit, because yesterday we were in the area where Tandy had that impala up a tree. There were lots of hyenas below, but we couldn't find her or the cub. Now we've been able to catch up some of the tracks, and it seems over here we've got some of the little cub's tracks going up the road, which is a little bit away from where we were yesterday. If we have a look here, here is one of the tracks there. There's one of the little cub tracks. Okay, and another one just over there. Alright, and just to put it into perspective, there's my hand. So the size of it, you can just see like that over there. Now we'll just go over on the other side of the road. So little cubby's just walking on the left-hand side, and mommy's walking over here on the right-hand side of the road. We'll put my stick there. We can see mommy's track over here. There it is. And a little bit of a difference in size as well. Okay, and just next to it, there's a Janet track. So you can see of the size. I know it's not the easiest to see these different tracks here, but just to give you an indication. Now, Herbie is up on the tracks. He's moving forward, and we're going to try and see if we can follow up and find Tandy and the cub. Obviously, that is our main goal for today, and those are my characters for this week. But nonetheless, we're going to stop for everything in between, look for all sorts of different tracks and signs and all sorts as we go along. So it could be a very exciting start to the morning. We've heard a lot of birds, francolins, alarm calling, etc. So there's all sorts. The lions have been heard near to the Waterhole Dam, and hyenas all around the whole night and into the morning. So very exciting as we start the bushwalk this morning with the sun just coming up. Wow, what a day to start like this, eh? It's nice and fresh, and I'm so excited to be out here, and I'm glad you're joining us, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of action today. Okay, everyone, I'm going to catch up with Herbie, see what's happening with these tracks. And yes, it's a big welcome back to Craig. He's been out on leave, enjoying himself. Well, I'm sure he's enjoying himself being back on the track. But while we catch up with Herbie, see what's happening with these tracks, let's head back to David, who I'm not quite sure what's happening his side, but I'm sure it's very exciting.
Alrighty, Craig. I first met Craig in Kenya when I was doing my interviews as a presenter, and quite a nice gentleman he is, and he does great great camera work, just like Sebastian here. Having seen Tandy the other day, I think it makes me feel possibly if you could see her again this morning, it could be a great thing for me. And seeing Talalamba playing with the mother there, and as I might have said, tracking leopards here is something very, very special. The ball game or the dynamics of getting different from what we do in Kenya, and every time I move, did you hear that? What's my favorite part of guiding? In terms of watch park, or is it about bushwalk, or is it about driving? If it's about guiding, I've always enjoyed guiding while driving, but now possibly I would say I would prefer trucking and walking because it's different from what I've never done it before. And it's so good when you see a truck and someone is telling you this is a leopard, this is a cheetah, or this is a hyena. Could have been a female of this cat or that cat. That one, I'm trying to get some interest in that, Sharon. We can hear those bird calls this morning, orioles. We just had some alarm calls of big birds that we didn't know what they were. And we're just listening carefully now. Very good. As the sun is making its way through up the eastern horizon, or the beautiful tree canopy there. Good job, Seb. Great light on all these. So the sun is coming up. Seb, can you see the moon? Could be too far, but one side we have the sun and the other side we have the moon out there. Beautiful clear sky. And it's during these full moons we'll get the impalas rutting going on. Beautiful stuff. Wake up in the morning, see the sun coming up and the moon up there. Very good. And as we keep waiting to hear whether we are going to pick more alarm calls, let's go to Stivovo.
Thank you, David. I'm wondering how he is doing with those the cold morning. I just heard something on the radio. I need to just double check what Herbie's trying to say to me. I do apologize. Herbie, go for Steve. Sorry, what was your update there, please? Okay, he was just giving me an update on where Tundi. Okay, Corbett, thanks. Sorry, I just missed that. Wildebeest, did you see some fresh?
No, it's in the middle of the road, break down. You drove past.
Some fresh leopard scat in the road. And I was just checking Ingwe Alley. Have you got it, Vildy?
No, right around the corner there.
Oh, no, I didn't see the fresh dung. Fresh leopard dung. Just going to turn around and go have a look. The multitasking abilities you have here of listening to the updates from FC while Herbie's talking to me and having to drive at the same time, it is quite something to behold, especially in the morning when your brain is still a bit cold. Let's have a look at who dung that, and then see if there's any tracks moving away from it. Zena, I love tracking leopards. I really find it satisfying to find them. They're very hard. But what I do really enjoy tracking is lions. Lions are a little bit easier to track than leopards. There's some scat on the road. Excuse me while I just quickly reconnect myself. Okay, so that actually is hyena dung. Hyena dung's got these really sort of nipple-like shapes to it. Can you move that a little bit? Remember, folks, you don't want to touch this. Chris, who likes to take screenshots of me with dung. There we go, Chris, that one's for you. It's as close as I'm going to get. Now, hyena, what we find with cats is cats when they defecate, their scat has got this really long pinch over here, whereas hyena's got this very nice sort of nipple shape, and they come out in sort of little balls, little shaped balls like that, and also this very greenish sort of tinge to it. this is going to go white in the next few hours. This is very fresh. There are hyena tracks just moving along over here. So very good chance that this is hyena, but obviously I didn't see it. But leopards have always got this very long pinch at the end of their scat. That is quite a characteristic way to identify. But we'll continue on from here and see what we can find. Thanks for that though, Vildi. We'll come back in this afternoon and that will be white from all the bone in the diet. Head on back. We did check the last position of Hosana last night for where he had stolen Tundi's meat, but there was nothing there apart from a few hairs. Chris Mack, very good question. Predator's dung. So scat, we talk about lion, leopard, wildcat, cheetah would be scat. And dung is normally vegetarian style dung. So it comes in either a pellet or a bolus form, and it's made up of mainly vegetarian food. So, you know, I don't mind playing with dung with my hands, but scat, there's way too many internal parasites and things like that you can find in lion, leopard, scat that would really affect you. Internal parasites, worms, things that would actually, if you get them on your hand and you eat, could lead to you getting quite ill. So we try and avoid that. Because of the diet they eat rotten meat, dead and decomposing meat, and yeah, you don't want to be playing with that sort of stuff. It's just the same. And then we look at humans, baboons, and civets. We call it feces because it's an omnivore diet. Cola, the scat goes white in hyena because of the huge amounts of bone in the diet. They've got really strong teeth and jaws, and they're able to physically really break down the entire animal. So they crunch, and they just get all that bone in the diet. And the bone, which appears in that scat to be very green when it's fresh, within a couple hours of oxidizing, actually goes very white. And that's because of the calcium in the bone, or from the bone, that's been broken up. The other cats, or should I say lions and leopards, don't get to break down as much bone as hyena, but when they eat an entire steenbok or a young impala or something like that, you can find a lot of white in the dung as well. But that very characteristic pinch at the end is something that I find very common in cats versus hyena. And there are so many hyena tracks. Oh great, David's found antelope and I have found Hosana's track. So that's all good. You go over to David and I'm going to make head or tail of where these tracks are going.
We just found a big male nyala and he's playing a bit of hide and seek with us. We want to get hold of it. You can see it moving. Let's see if Sebastian will tell me the best angle for us to get hold of it. Back up a little bit. 1 minute. We need to reposition for the great Sebastian to get the best shot from it. It's up there. Pretty cool morning. Look at him. Enjoying some leaves there. Where I come from, we do not have nyalas, and my excitement continues as I see different species every day. It's giving us the backside, especially for me, not for Sebastian and James. I'm sure they have seen these guys many times. It's giving me all the profiles possible just for me to make sure I know how good they look compared to the other antelopes we got in Kenya. This one, not anywhere in East Africa. Megan, you'd like to know where I come from in Kenya, and just to let you know, it's a long way from here. I mean, 2,800 kilometers or 1,800 miles from here. But if you look at the map of Kenya and you look at Nairobi, which is the capital city, and then you go to the west of Kenya, there's a very huge lake there called Lake Victoria. I come more or less from right in the middle there. And the other smaller lakes area that you call the Great Lakes, there's one lake called Lake Nakuru. That's where I was born and bred. Where do you come from, Megan? Djuma, a very good morning from where we are, and my favorite animal. If we talk of where we are now, this will definitely take the day. Nyala, beautiful colors, size, the horns, the body morphology, I just love them. You go back to Kenya, I would say my favorite animal would be one, not similar to this one, that is called the oryx. This is called the Besa oryx. That would be my favorite one in East Africa. Hope that helps answer your question, Djuma. And I do not know whether you have been here. And if so, which antelope did you like most? Or which was on Safari Live game drives? Maya, I'm not sure why they have those white spots there. I do not want to lie and say they're either for decoration, maybe, or they want to look good to the females. Could be a reason. James Andrew, what do you think?
I don't know.
Tell me something. I mean, my trainer here, my senior, he says he doesn't know, Maya. You can imagine this nice-looking man saying he does not know. He is trying to break my... But I would say, in general, the males have always to look good to the females. And could be that's one of the reasons they have the white spots to look nice to the females. But certainly I have no idea. I will not lie to you why they have the white spots. Maybe I'll find out later and let you know, Maya. And as we keep, or personally keep enjoying that beautiful male nyala, Raf, have seen some some prints on the ground.
Well, everyone, we're still on the trail of Thandi and the little Tlalamba. And, well, this is one of the signs that we would be using to work out their so on. Obviously, this isn't very fresh. It is probably from the last few days. But we're on this track, on this road, and that's the only reason why we are walking on the road, because these cats have been up and down here, and this is one of the marks that has been left. And this is from the little Tlalamba, because it's actually quite a small little scat for a leopard. Remember the different groupings of poo. If we look at herbivores, we talk about dung. If we look at omnivorous animals, we talk about feces, that is baboons and humans, etc. And when we talk about carnivores, we talk about scat. Now, this is scat, and I know that you were looking at some hyena scat with Steve, I think it was. So here we're looking at leopard scat, and at that, because this is really strange. I've never seen this with a leopard, and I've never actually seen a young leopard scat. This looks like there's actually been a piece of skin that's passed right through the system there and come out a little bit like a old hard piece of shoe. So very interesting indeed, because the hyena, which are very, very acidic stomach, they digest almost everything, and everything comes out in literally almost powder form once it's dried in the scat. But with the leopard, you can see a lot of hair in there, and as I say, a little bit of piece of skin. If we had to dig around a little bit closer, we'd probably find even the odd piece of bone
But what is interesting is that you also have the different sort of stages of the scat that's coming out from the animal. The initial one, immediately after feeding, would be a black slop, and that's very much a lot of the blood that's coming through, and it will turn green, and then as it oxidizes and carbonates and so on, and then it disappears. But this is one of the later scats, or in the stages of them actually defecating, because here we're having most of the hair, and that's a very good indication that she's had a few poos before she's had this one, but still very clear that you can see it a little bit greenish, a little bit of a greenish tinge to it, showing that there is blood in it. That's always an indication of blood, but also very white as well, quite similar to that of the hyena, because the amount of calcium that is in there, with a lot of chewing of the bones, etc. But what is also quite indicative here is that it's a youngster, and you can actually smell almost carcass. Karcha, that's an interesting question. Sort of around the DNA testing of scat to find out who would be the father. I'm not sure about the scat, because do DNA testing on this, I'm pretty sure we would probably find out more so about what the animal ate. I think if we wanted to do DNA testing of the cat itself, we would probably more likely want to do get some genetic material from the cat itself. I don't think, look, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the best DNA testing from an animal's defecation for that animal, it would more possibly be for what it's been eating. If we want to get DNA from that particular cat, we'd probably have to dart it and get some DNA material from the inside of the mouth or the anus or anywhere. We could find out who the father is, but I would suggest that it's not the best to do it from scat. Now, Cheryl, the animals won't, especially carnivores, they won't necessarily poo every day if they haven't eaten. It's almost immediately after they've eaten, they'll have that very black slop. Then they'll have quite a little bit more of a solid poo, and it gets more and more solid as she could have 2-3 poos in one day after having a big meal, and then it will slow down a little bit, and then it will almost come to a stop, and she will then be retaining all the protein until she eats again, which could be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days time, and then you'll start to have that cycle going again once she's fed the really black sort of liquidy slop, a little bit more solid, and then landing up a bit more like this, and right at the end you might have just the hair and bone coming out. So it's really a cycle, even with the defecation, and almost you can feel it coming through the animal's body. So very interesting indeed. Now, Lady Starfire, that's exactly right. As I was saying, it almost, I wonder if it's because this is Tlala scat. Carnivore scat very often does stink a lot, and it's because they're meat eaters. But I don't find normally that this stage of the scat stinks as much as this does. It's almost like Tlalamba's acidic digestive system is not developed 100% just yet, so she's probably passing quite a bit of skin and bone and almost undigested meat material. So this is smelling a little bit more like a carcass than I've ever smelt on this stage of carnivore scat. So very interesting indeed. Okay, everyone, we're going to head up into the sun in an eastern. Hopefully these tracks don't head out of the reserve, but that remains to be seen. We'll catch up with Herbie, see what's happening. In the meantime, off to David, who's got a wonderful bird in the sun.
Yes, hopefully those trucks will bring some good news at the end of them. And we just found some beautiful starling here. And the starling here is one unique one. Again, another new bird species for me that we do not have in East Africa. And this starling is called the Butcher's starling. They are preening itself. And the day or the morning is starting now. So they have to be in good shape before they start go looking for food, insects, or what are they going to be eating. Let's just listen to its call a few seconds. Beautiful. One more time. This is interesting because it prints itself and then like, am I looking good? I'm not sure that's the message. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine that. So either if it's a female, it's passing the message to the male or the other way around. Look at me now. What do you think? Molly, good morning. It's your morning or good evening. And you'd like to know what starlings we got in Kenya. We got a few that we have here and also found in Kenya. But one thing is the fact, this particular one, we do not have it in Kenya. And the blue-eared glossy starling, for example, we have in Kenya, we have it here. But I think maybe James will correct me later. There's one very special one that's called the golden-breasted starling. I don't think we have it here in South Africa. James says we don't have it. I'll show it to you in the book how it looks like. And we also go to the superb starlings. Hopefully, we also don't have them here, the superb starlings. The Hildebrand starlings, which are also not here. So those three can tell you for a fact we got them in Kenya and they're not found here. But we also got others that are here, for example this one, that we do not have in Kenya. I'll be showing you one of my favorite starlings that I was saying earlier that we don't have it here in South Africa and we have it in Kenya. Just give me 1 second. Aha, there we are now. Now let me get you starlings and you'll see it's one starling that it's very beautiful. It's very similar to this in terms of size. It will be very similar to this one here. And it's called the golden-breasted. And the golden-breasted should be right. And look at that starling there. Compare it to just what we saw there. And look on the gold colors there, or what we call honey colors, the green in it, and the blue in it, the long tail. And look at it in flight. Well done, Seb. That is one of my most favorite starlings in East Africa, as the name suggests. And you only see them in low elevations and semi-arid areas, not exactly like where we are, but in dry areas. And that's one very unusual starling. I'll show you also the other starling we have in Kenya that we don't have here. And that one is the superb starling. Such a great name, but I don't know how superb it is. Say, it is superb. Seb, have you seen that one before?
In Kenya, yes.
Oh, Seb has been to Kenya many times and he loved it. So this is, on top there, is the other starling that we have in Kenya that is not found here. Superb starling. All right. And I'll keep trying to see new bird species here so that I compare to what is not found in Kenya. But in the meantime, Steve might have some news for us.
Yes, well, I'm sure David is loving the fact, or I hope he's sunning himself like that starling. And I was blown away at the amount of starlings you found up in East Africa. Unbelievable. The difference between them as well is so small that you think you've ID'd one, and then you have a look and you're like, oh no, that's like 4 or 5 different species. A very slightly different eye or very slightly different chest. But great that he's able to come down here and do some birding himself. Well, we had tracks of Hosanna for some time, and it appears as we were dropping the bushwalk team off with Ralph sitting on the top or on the front there, he missed the tracks that we drove over. Those tracks went into the Mawati sort of drainage system, same area Herbie's working on with regards to Tundi's tracks. So we're going to come around as we're headed towards where Herbie is. He's in that direction there, Herbie and Ralph. And oh, there goes one battalier, and there's another one. Oh, is that all right? Not the best in this light. The light is coming from the wrong side. There's a battalier pair nesting in this area. And it's at the time of year for the nests, and the one just flew off. I wonder who can tell me, hashtag Safari Live, if this one is the or the female. Interesting. It's very easy to see. Got to do with a waistcoat or a miniskirt. Send your questions to hashtag, your comments to hashtag Safari Live. And we're going to continue on tracking for Tundi and maybe even move on to tracking Hosanna. And this bird is doing exactly what David would like to be doing now, and that is sunning himself in the early morning sunshine. Or herself, should I say. Himself, herself. Who could it be? Just notice where the white is on the closed wing. That is your go for. And while I wait for those to come through, Dark Aurora, you've got a 50% chance of getting it right, and unfortunately, Dark Aurora, you got it wrong. So everyone else, send through your comments quickly. It's a male or female? Quick, quick, quick. Oh, could have cheated if we'd shown you the underside. Oh, well, consulting detective, you clearly got it right, but I'm not going to tell anybody what it was until more people get it right. But it's flown off into the distance, and by showing you the underwing as it flew off, but we didn't, because they don't always fly. Raina, you are correct. So for all of those of you out there that are going for male, you are incorrect. It is a female. She has got the white at the bottom. So think of the white mini skirt, and he's got the white only on the shoulder. Think of a white waistcoat. Men wear waistcoats, women wear mini skirts, or some women do anyway. Easy way to remember. And when they fly off like that one did, you got a very almost completely white on the underwing. I hope that helps you with all your identifications. I have no idea, Patty. The red bird make it to Africa? I'm not sure. Are you thinking about the red cardinal? I have no idea, to be honest. We do get bishops, red bishops. I'm not familiar with the northern red cardinal, Lukey. Sorry, Patty, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've not come across that bird. So we are slowly moving east. Brad, animals do definitely move from Sabi Sands, but they don't leave like to go west, because there's we're closed. The entire Kruger National Park, Greater Kruger Park, is closed to the west. But you definitely see movements of elephants into the eastern side of the Kruger. You see movements of wildebeest and zebra. Impala seem to be quite sort of in their place. The male wildebeest don't go anywhere. But yeah, there's definitely female rhinoceros will move. Males will pretty much stay in their area. But then your other small animals, anything that's territorial, that's their spot. They're not going anywhere. Hey. Standing by, Herbs. Sorry, it's calling me. Okay, so Herbie, we're about to bump into them on Chris Mack. Things that might delay rutting. With regards to Impala, I've never encountered that. Look who we found on foot. Chris Mack, I've never encountered that before. Yes, breeding in general, they're lacking food, especially birds, certain mammals might. The rutting will still happen though in the Impala, but if, for example, the food resources were very, very low, then there's apparently the possibility of them inducing an abortion later on in the season because they are not in good enough condition to give birth. That I have heard of before, but it won't stop the initial actual foreplay and mating happening. Look at Mr. Ralph. He has got a biggest smile on his face. Hey, Ralphie. How's it, guys? Good morning, Craig. Good morning, Herbie.
Morning.
So, yeah, we had tracks of what looked like Osana coming from the kill site last night, straight over Twin Dam. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're on Tandi Palamba.
So you've got the tracks, eh? So the tracks are right here where we've stopped the car. You can't see them clearly, but they're walking straight past here. This is the junction of Mamba and Drakensberg. I can show you on the map. What are your suggestions, Herbs? What would you like us to do? Yeah. And I come down on Cheetah Cut line. Okay. You guys carry on and we'll come pick you up if you need, eh? If you get too far. Okay, so here is the map, folks. Hang on. Yes, the road over here. This is called Ingwe Alley. This is where the kill was with Tandi, and Hosana was there last night. Hosana's tracks crossed over here, Twin Dams Road. Herbie's been tracking Tandi from about here. He's gone up onto Battalier. He's come down Drakensberg. And here we find ourselves right there on the junction. So he's asked us to go around this way, come down the Cheetah Cut line boundary, see if she crosses east. And if she doesn't do that, then she's probably here somewhere. That's a long distance to be traveling with a cub. So hopefully she's just going to sort of hide away somewhere here. But we've got experts on their trail. So never fear. Herbie is here. We're going to... Yes, Heidi, they do look very shifty. We already gave them a lift this morning and they stole my wallet. So I'm only joking. It was Ralph who stole my wallet. No, I'm also only joking. They do look quite shifty, Heidi. And the one's got a firearm as well. So, yeah, I definitely don't want to pick them up. You know, if they get too far away, it does help. But what actually helped a lot this morning was dropping them as far away as we did. That gives them a bit of a head start on the morning. I mean, normally to get to this side, it takes you half the morning just to get here. And I mean, we're not even an hour in, I think, this far, which does help quite a lot. And where we are now, this is where Tandi and Tlalamba had the Steenbok kill for a few days, or from the weekend, I think from Saturday until about Monday, Tuesday, she was here. So she seems to be moving in the same directions. And I believe Brent was saying last night that he thinks, sorry, VM, some of these bumps just come out of nowhere, just like some aardvark holes. Sorry, Vildi. I'm going to be the death of him today on the car. But Brent seems to think that Hosana is a threat to Tandi. I mean, I don't know. I've said to you all live that I don't think he is. I don't think he's at that sort of stage to be wanting to mate. But, I mean, he's just too playful, don't you think, to be a threat to such a cute little cub? What's your thoughts, Vildi? Do you reckon he's a risk? Vildi thinks he's a potential risk. I suppose nothing is unwritten, you know. Anything could happen. But, I mean, I think he's just So closely invested with Tundi as the surrogate mother that why would he? Who knows? Who knows? But she's moved off. Whether it was because of Osana stealing her kill or whether it was because I think James said Hukumuri was calling the night before, it's hard to say. But whatever it is, she has moved quite with little Tlalamba to get away from that side. Okay, well, it looks like Bushwalk is looking in a tree. Let's go see what they found.
Well, everyone, we haven't found our leopards just yet. We're still on the trail of Tundi and Tlalamba. Hopefully they haven't headed into Torchwood. But what we are standing next to now is one of our beautiful marula trees, and these are one of the trees that the leopards love to go up to into as well. They're beautiful for them to lie on, have a nice view from, and also being able to stand up in one of the forks of the tree. But something else that is very useful with these trees, and I know Taylor was wondering the other day, she said she had some mosquito bites on her leg, and she came over to a marula, and then she wasn't quite sure exactly which part of the tree is very strong in antihistamine. Now, I did mention it when I first started with Wild Earth about the inner cambium of the marula tree. I've got a few mosquito bites as well. Luckily at this time of year, the insects are sort of starting to go a little bit dormant. There's less mosquitoes at the moment. It's cooling off, so at least leave us alone a bit. And the ticks are not as bad as well. They never completely go away. There's always the odd little one. Bex in FC saying that her legs are telling her differently, but well, you got to watch out here, Bex, because there's a lovely marula tree in camp. Now, we don't want to be destroying all the marula trees and doing holes like I'm going to do now all over the place, but you pick your spot randomly on random different marulas as well, and what you do is you take a nice strong knife, okay, and you want to be just twisting it to make a nice cone-shaped circle into the bark here. And where we're going to be accessing is actually that red inner cambium. Sometimes it can take a little bit of a while just to make and you access that red inner cambium. Now I'll show you once I get in there a little bit further. You see there, it starts to come out nice and red. Okay, so we'll go in a little bit deeper, and it does become a little bit juicy as well. That's what we're after. We're after that inner juice. Oops, I go out the light. That inner juice there, that's the inner cambium. It is extremely high antihistamine. This is stronger than any tablet that you will get on the market or in your local clinic. And so this is the best stuff you could ask for. If you've got an itch, rub some of this on. It is immediately, instantly gone. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I've got a couple of little itches on my leg. That over there is what you're after. So now we take that and we just wipe that around all the spots where you may get some mosquito bites or tick bites, and it is immediately not itchy anymore. So, but like I say, we don't want to be damaging the tree too much, so random trees, random holes as well. And there's a question, how old is this tree? I would say that this tree is probably between 30 and 50 years old. It's taken quite a bit of time for it to get that age. So Snazzy, I would say in the region of 30 to 50 years old. So it's seen quite a bit, this beautiful tree, and we don't want to damage it too much. Use it if we can. It's normally producing the lovely marula fruits, so we can eat that as well. But you do get male and female marula trees as well. Don't forget that. Cat brag, you can often see on some of these marula trees and other ones as well, where the cats have clawed the trees, both from just climbing up the tree. I can't see any on it here at the moment. Very often you can just see where the bark has been sort of popped off as they've climbed up. But lions and leopard, they very often also leave sort of a territorial marking as well. They'll scratch on one particular area, and that's a visual marking as well, and it also serves as a dual purpose in sharpening their claws. So Wow, what a wonderful tree is the marula. There's a lot more uses than we know about. YouTube viewer, there are a lot of medicinal plants around out here in the bush. So many that I can't even mention on one little segment like this. But the ultimate pharmacy of the bush is the sickle bush. And I'm not seeing any in my direct vicinity here. But they are used for all sorts of things. Antiseptic to painkiller. So if you've got any kind of cut, you just take some of those leaves and you put it on a bandage and you put it in there, and it would help for that. You can also make concoctions of it, make some tea. It really helps out. There are so many trees out here that it's very interesting. If you had to get some books of the medicinal uses of the trees in the bushveld, it's almost endless. And a lot of the Shangaan sort of local doctors, a lot of their medicine comes from the local vegetation. So, and that's probably the origins of even modern medicine. Very interesting there. That's where we get a lot of our medication from at the moment anyway. Okay, so it seems like we're doing a little bit of trees this morning, and while we continue on our track and see if we can catch up with Thandi and Salamba, off to David, who's got another tree of his own.
I've been standing here the last 5 minutes, feeding on these berries. I'm a bit worried because at one point James and Sebastian had to tell me, you have to stop. If you want to do it, you'll have eaten all the berries. But I can tell you, very, very yummy. And I'll pick a few more. Love them, love them. Elephants will eat them. Monkeys, the baboons will eat them. David loves them. I just gave a couple of them to Sebastian and James. I'm not sure what with the feedback on the taste of the fruit, but this particular tree here, or bush, is called the Natal Ngware. So what I've been doing since I got here, I'll be doing a lot of parallels because we have a very similar bush or tree back in Kenya, but it's called the Magic Ngware. The difference will be that little bush earlier. Yes. The leaves. The difference will be, I think, only on the leaves. If you look at these leaves here, Seb, is that good? These ones here are a bit wavy and a little wide. And this one here, if you see, they are slender, not wavy, and maybe more straight. That's the difference. But initially, when we stopped, I told James, this was the Magic Ngware, and they told me similar, same species, but exactly not quite. So what I will do, I might pick a few of the ripe berries on the drive, and if I'll be lucky to get some in the kitchen, we might make some nice milkshake. Ice cream, you think, James, what could be good?
No, thank you.
These boys are not on my side today when it comes to food, but personally, I'll carry some with me to the kitchen and either go make some vanilla ice cream or some milkshake. As we keep tracking and looking for what to do. James just bought a new blender the other day and he says, don't touch it, David. I know how to do it. I've been in the hotel industry, been in the kitchen for so many years too. I'll use it wisely. And I might give him some of the shake when it's ready or the vanilla. Right.
The rules say you must take a time to make breakfast. The rules are wrong.
Right, we'll continue with our search and find out whether Tamba will be out. Lizzo, you'd like to know when the berry is live. Now, when they're green, they're just ripening, and then they'll come to this color there. And then finally, it's like dark red or that color you see right there. That time, what should happen is the plants themselves also want to look brightly colored for the birds, because also the birds like feeding on them. They also want the birds to come and eat them, and then when they go poo wherever, they're going to disperse the seeds, and these plants will keep growing everywhere. So the plants are also equally clever. They want the seeds or the berries to look brightly colored for the animals, even the baboons when they eat them. When they go to poo, the seeds will be all over the area. So now when they are this color, they're ready and good to eat. Okay, we'll head out and see if we've got. While we do that, let's go to Steve Oval and find out what he is up to.
Yes, well, we are on the eastern boundary now with Chitwa, and Herbie's got tracks there going back on Mamba, and we've got tracks going north on this road. So really confusing what's going on. We need to try to figure this out. We are over here, somewhere there, and we left Herbie on that little junction there, and the tracks have gone down and going back the way we came, and we've got tracks going up this road, well, down and up this road. So if it's even the same leopard, it could be a different leopard altogether. But I'm no expert on what leopard tracks can tell you. All I know is that it is a female this way, and it's going back that way. So this is an interesting turn of events. We're going to have to try to figure this out, and by doing that, I'm going to have to jump off the vehicle. Ravinda, I don't know actually. Vildi, do you know why it's called Chitwa? No idea. Vildi doesn't know either, Ravinda. I'm terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I'm going to see if I can show you a track here. The light is not very good. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it here, but there's one and there's one. Going that way and going that way. Could be a completely different. Very exciting. Very exciting. Definitely a female by the size. How are you looking at this? All right, Vildi? Not the best, but the light. You can see the 3 lobes and the 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. And if you're not too sort of familiar with leopard tracks, it's always a good thing to sort of measure. So take a line. Let me just get a stick. Take a line and a line from the top and the bottom, and get your little ruler out. There we go. 8 centimeters. 8.5 centimeters. Definitely a female. A male is a centimeter and a bit big. And also the outside of the toe sort of stands out more. So now we just need to figure out which way these are going. Up and down. I believe the ones going that way are fresher, so we might drive a little bit further that way. Herbie's still on tracks that side. Let's see how far these ones go. Maybe she came down and up again and has gone in. Who knows? Who knows? One positive thing, it is warming up. It's almost time to take off a jacket. Or 2. Or in my case, 3. So it's important to check these little main roads. Cat, I have never seen Kuchava. Sure, small leopards here. Okay, I don't know. I've never seen Kuchava. I think when Taylor was still here, she got Kuchava down in Chitwa, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a couple weeks ago. Okay, so now here is a male leopard heading north. All sorts of things going on here this morning, folks. I mean, I couldn't even tell you who these leopards could be. I know Djuma's sort of on this side. Who else is this side? I don't know. I'm by no means the leopard expert. I've never seen a lot of these leopards that are on the books. I'm sure Wildebeest has seen them. See this side, Wildy. Was that not Kuchava? Was that the skittish one from the north? Okay, so apparently Wildy's seen Kuchava. This is an area she could be in, but I don't see any young tracks. But the fact that you've got tracks going up and down is a sign that maybe they've got a kill, they're moving up and down to get the kill, or they've gone back to get the cub, or it could even be male and female there, could even be a female and a male mating. And just like that, the tracks have vanished. From many tracks to none. Okay, well, looks like David is on a roll this morning and he'd like to discuss to do with the water.
This has been a good morning for me in terms of budding. And as I said, one special bird I saw today was the Barchal Starling that we don't have in Kenya. What we have now are the blacksmith lapwings. Blacksmith lapwings. Beautiful reflection of them in the water dam there. And just to let you know, these ones, we also have them in Kenya. Most lapwings are very territorial, including what you're seeing on your screen now. The blacksmith lapwings, very, very territorial. They defend their homes aggressively, either against monitor lizards or bigger birds of prey like the snake eagles or wild bugs eagles. And they're preening themselves. It's like the norm this morning for most of these birds, the starful and these lapwings here. Everybody needs to look good, and basically what they do, they realign their feathers, and when need be, these ones rarely fly. They do fly, but most of the time they're ground birds and found near water, like most common lapwings are. But should there be a reason for them to fly, they should be in good shape to take off. And the sun is coming out nicely, it's warming up for them, which is good for all of them, myself too. Not very far from where we are, Seb, if you may swing to your left, like 10 o'clock.
Show me what you want first.
Right, sorry.
Okay.
Sarah, good question. Are lapwings monogamous? I'm not sure about that. Let me just find out for you, and I'll ask you as you continue enjoying that. That's the pied wagtail. That's called the African pied wagtail. Just landed on the floor there. And I'll let you know if the lapwings are monogamous or not in a minute. Okay, look at it running there on the ground, trying to feed, or it's warming up during the morning laps. And that's one of the ways how they get their food. And these ones are two. There's a pair. There's the one you see on the floor, and there's another one that you're seeing on the tree there. So these particular ones are a pair. But let's first concentrate on the blacksmith lapwing, and we'll be able to know if they are monogamous or not. They are not, and I don't think they will always have a common, they pair together a male and a female for life. And like what I know could be monogamous would be the Egyptian geese, which are also found also very near water. And the blacksmith is still on the very edge of the dam there. Yes, and just to answer your question correctly now, so just scroll through, little help from my brother here, James. Yes, the blacksmith lapwing are monogamous. Sorry it took rather long to get you that answer, but yes, they are monogamous. So this maybe the two you're seeing there could be a male and a female, and 100% they are monogamous. So if there could be 3-4 young ones there, they could be the young ones. And as we continue watching these lapwings here, let's go to the people doing the bushwalk.
So everyone, well, we are still on the trail of Thandi and Tlalamba, and I just want to give you a real impression of what it's like tracking an animal and all the other different little tracks that you find along the way as well. Now, this little one that Craig is looking closely there, it's a 3-toed animal. Well, there's actually a 4th one because there's a little toe coming off at the back there. So it's got a little toe at the back, which means that it is a perching bird. And, well, this is a little dove. I'm probably thinking it's an emerald spotted wood dove, but it may be a little bit big for that. It is, however, difficult sometimes in soft sand because it makes the track look a lot bigger than it actually is. So I'm thinking emerald spotted wood. And what is quite interesting is that he walks along over there, and then he does a very big winding loop, and he walks off over there, comes back, and zigzagging across the road. Okay, and that's very indicative of a dove. It's almost like quite drunk, but what is very indicative for me as a tracker, following a trail, we're looking at Thandi and Tlalamba's tracks, we're trying to work out how fresh they are. So this is one of the indicating factors, these little dove tracks. He's walking up this road in a sort of northeasterly direction, but into the sun. So that says to me that these tracks are from this morning. Why would I say that? Because these little doves, they're looking for seeds, and they're looking for that on the open patches on the road. They don't want to be walking with the sun behind their head, because then they're going to be looking into the shade. So they're going to be walking more or less into the sun so that they can see where the little seeds are on the road. So this guy walked here this morning because there were vehicles that moved up and down here yesterday, and these tracks are on top of them and going. So we could use these tracks as an indication if they go on top of Thandi and Tlalamba's tracks or if they're underneath them. In other words, if Thandi has stepped in a place and those tracks have dissected, are they visible in her track or do they disappear underneath her track? That would give us an indication of when, because we know that this dove walked here this morning. So those are all the kind of little clues that we're looking for as we're walking up the road. Once again, the only reason we are walking on the road is because we've got the tracks of Thandi and Tlalamba. So has Steve on the other side. So we're trying to now just get an elimination sort of session going on. Where was she last? Where are they going? It seems they have returned into this portion here in this block and not all. Now, Bud, tracking and trailing is one of the skills that you need to learn as a guide, because it's not all about just jumping on the radio and finding out what everybody else has found so that you can go and look at that. It's looking at tracks and signs like this to work out for yourself where you could be potentially going to find elephant, rhino, lions, and leopard this morning is what we're after. So that's one of the very important training that you would do. And then there's obviously all the different geological, meteorological, ecological, etc. There's lots more to do there. But for me, the basis of any guide would be tracking and how to find animals. That's where you start. Right. While we do try and find this animal, let's head on over to Steve and see if he's got any clues for us from his side.
Indeed, Ralph. Tracking is all about the ability to find animals, but the amazing thing about tracking and being a human is that we take tracks and then interpret animal behavior. I mean, for example, this nyala, as it walks, it steps with its back foot where its front foot stepped, so that is a means of keeping very silent, of stealth movement. You can tell when a leopard's got its tracks depending on how it's walking. Just doing at that time. Is it scent marking? Is it walking slowly, so stealthily, so foot on top of foot? Or is the front foot hitting the ground very hard with dust coming up, very characteristic of a territorial male? Are there claws in the track? The animal uses it for digging. So you can extrapolate all sorts of things from the track itself, not just finding animals, but what they do and how they're moving. Like a honey badger track, you can always see they're just running. They're always moving so fast. So that's the awesome thing about tracks. It's not just about seeing a track and going, oh, this is an elephant. You can say this is a breeding herd of elephants heading in this direction at this speed. So you can kind of guess whereabouts they might be. So human element comes in, the scientific brain, the scientific thinking. The art of tracking developed the scientific mind, enabled us to think like animals, and the only way to find an animal is to think like one. If we had to go track, it would take us a very long time to find them. If you spend time with Herbie, he always, you've got tracks here, he's like, no, let's go this way and check, because that's a way of cutting down the time needed to spend walking. If you had to follow the animal one track after the other, it would take an enormous amount of time to catch up with them. If you in 4, 5, 6 hours behind them, you need to be able to catch up. So that is what's really awesome about tracking. Koala animals don't physically look at tracks on the ground and follow each other, but they do smell. They scent smell each other. They track each other through smell. I've watched a young male lion find his pride. He walked about 4 kilometers and he was just smelling the ground where they'd been walking. Obviously, they probably got up before. He was maybe having a little bit too long of a snooze, and then he found them with his nose on the ground. Hyenas we've seen find all sorts of things with their nose on the ground. Leopards as well. We've seen Shadulu and Hosanna walking through the long grass, smelling whatever it is they're smelling. We can only assume what they've seen or smelt, but I would love to have that sort of sense of smell, to be able to down and find an animal that way. Be marvelous. Elephants, obviously, sense of smell is enormously good. Rhinos as well, they follow each other. For example, a male rhino, like here's a midden that we're coming past. It's not a very active midden, but the male rhino, when he scrapes his back feet, he scrapes his back feet on there. It covers that midden just in front. He scrapes his back feet and he gets that smell on his feet. And then when he walks, he scrapes the ground. And if another male comes in the area and he does something similar to this male in his territory, this male will be able to find him by the tracks he leaves behind with the smell. He'll find him and then they'll box. So if you want to fight with a rhino, if you are a rhino, then that's what you do. I'm not scared of you. I'm here to take over your territory, and that's what leopards are doing as well. Hukumuri is doing it. Tingana seems to be doing it, but he's not calling, so he's not making it an immediate thing. It's going to take some time for the male who he's scent marking on top of to try and find him. So Herbie just suggested we come up here and have a little look. So Herbie asked us to come have a quick look up at Gwari Pan if there's any tracks. This is quite a favorite place for Tundi, but nothing coming in. Heidi, you have difficulty finding your bedroom door in the dark. Well, I don't know what to suggest. Maybe it's yeah, animals are definitely well more adapted than we are. We're in our walls, in our homes, so we feel safe. So I suppose we do get a little bit complacent with regards to finding what we need to find. But Heidi, what you should do next time is when you're walking through your house, you're trying to find your bedroom door in the dark, walk sideways, because you can actually see eye in the dark. You can't see forward because the front of us, front of our eyes has got cone cells which are used for amplifying color and not very good in low light, whereas rod cells we have on the outside of the eye, and that's got rod cells, and that is used for amplifying low light conditions and gets a bit more sort of depth in the dark. So walk through a house like this sideways and you'll find the light switch and the door a little bit easier than if you look in front. In front of you, it's completely blind in the darkness. Completely blind. But I can sort of feel your pain there, because sometimes, you know, when we move around, we don't always have the same room here, or if I go and leave, I'm staying at someone's house. There's always that moment when you wake up in the middle of the night and you have no idea where you are. It's always the funniest thing. Where am I? Where is the light switch? Where did I leave my phone? And you try to find your way around a house you don't know in the dark. That's not easy. Not easy. Imagine we could just smell where our feet had gone before. Know exactly where we left our shoes. Oh, fantastic. Well, we are going to make our way up to Buffelshoek, waiting for any updates from Sabi and the Bushwalk team. And while we do that, David has found himself some water.
Right, we are back to where we were yesterday, and still here. Habi are doing a good job there, trucking, and we got the hippos back in the water. They've been out the whole night feeding, and they're all giving us beautiful faces, good smiles, and saying, "Good morning, nice boys." Did you hear that? And it'll either be the males when they make that call. Very good. And it's either a territorial call, so they'll either, call just to say, "I'm in charge here," or sometimes you see them opening their mouth quite wide and showing their huge tusks out there. Hope you hear that again. Should be good comments that you love Chitwa so much. Yeah, mouth opening there. Yes, this is my third time here, and just like you, I love it. A lot of action going on here. Lots of live hippos. Yesterday we saw monitor lizard. We saw an African darter. You get kingfishers around here. It's one busy place. It'll keep you going for quite some time with all the activities of the animals, and more so for me, the hippos, you got in Kenya, you find them in rivers, and to see them in a dam is different. Hopefully that's the African darter. Always in water, and if you look at the shape of its neck towards the beak, it looks like a snake, and sometimes these darters, we call them the snake birds, because when you see them dive in the water and swimming, the only thing you only see the neck outside the water and the head and the beak, and from a distance you might think that is a snake. Again, training, and if it was in the water, it should be opening its wings pretty soon. YouTube viewer, you'd like to know why some birds migrate and others do not. I would say the two primary reasons why birds do migrate. Number one, for breeding. So here in Africa we get so many, say, bee eaters or storks coming here, and then when they go and breed, they go back, say, in what you call Europe or some parts of America. But also, number two, they also escape from the weather. When it gets sometimes very, very, very cold, say during winter, and the temperatures are not very good, so birds will migrate. So birds will migrate for two reasons: breeding and weather. The other ones that will not migrate is because basically where they are relatively fine with the weather, they breed there, and they got enough to eat. The reason to keep shifting homes. YouTube, hopefully that helps to answer your question. Stocks will migrate, bee-eaters will migrate, certain, eagles will migrate, but that are permanently found and staying here in Africa without moving. Look at that hippo. I don't know what he is thinking or she is thinking when they're looking at us. So blowing bubbles of air every few minutes. As general, I would say hippos, unlike the impalas in South Africa or the wildebeest in East Africa, do not have a specific breeding season. It could be any time of the year when they mate, and yes, I would say they do not have a specific breeding season. So you'll see different babies of different ages at a given time, which means, yes, they are dropped at different times. Hippos will mate also at different times. But like the impalas now here, the ratting season is on, and you'll get November, you'll get a peak of so many lambs being dropped. So those ones have a specific breeding season. But impalas, I would say they do not have one. Still too cold for me. I would feel maybe much later in the day to join the hippos there for a little swim. You're asking about the weights of the hippos. The males weigh much heavier than the females, and it could be anything from 1,500 kilograms to 2,000 kilograms. That would translate to about 3,000 to 4,000 pounds, and the females a little less by about 200 kilograms. So much more than the females, and the females could be anything 1,200, 1,300 kilograms in weight. Why I have never been able to know, the hippos will not be able to swim in waters. I'm not sure it's because of the density, and you'll see bigger animals than them, like the ellis, being able to swim in water, and they're much heavier. I do not know how deep this dam is. Say that again? Any what about hippos? Right. If there are any folktales about hippos, in Kenya, we have always said, if you survive a hippo attack, you will never die. And many people have been known to go play with hippos, and some, unfortunately, have lost their lives. But people have said, if you go chance a hippo between the hippo and the water, and you come home alive, you will never die. I would want to see people who have done that and who haven't died yet. That is in Kenya. I don't know what James will tell me the tales here in South Africa. Yeah, I would say hippos here and the ones in Kenya are the same in size and in everything else. And the only hippo that could be small are certain hippos you'd Africa, called the pygmy hippos. Those ones are relatively smaller, way smaller compared to what we have here. But hippos that you can see there on your screen and the hippos that we have in Kenya are the same in every form and shape. And as we finish seeing those birds, oxpeckers on top of the hippos there, the bushwalk have an interesting story.
Well, yes, it is quite interesting because we were just chatting about this a little bit earlier. And while we're still on the tracks of Tandi Tlalamba, they're really giving us a runaround because they're up and down this road. And I'll show you a little bit later what I mean. We've got tracks going one way, they're coming back, and they're going so it's backwards and forwards. Anyway, Herbie's trying to work out the mystery. While he's doing that, I've just popped off the road and had a look around for any signs of any other animals, and you see these very deep slash marks in this marula that's been pushed over, probably by an elephant. These are very indicative of lion scratch marks here, and it's all up this tree, all where you can see, as I say, where the bark has been removed, and so it's been removed, and then you can see some places where the nail has gone in over there as well. There's a slice mark there going right down all the way in over there, and the spacing between it definitely says to me that this is lion, because over there there's no nail in between. There's possibly over there, but this is quite a big spacing for a leopard. I would definitely think that this is lion scratching here, and there's all up and down, so I'm sure it's a few that have maybe walked up here, probably scratched, and then also there's more all around over there, going down the side, over there, there. It's not like they've really made a massive effort to make marking here, but I'm sure that they've scratched, and they've probably backed up against the side here and spraying as well. It might sound terrifying, but it's wonderful to watch if you're in a vehicle. Obviously, we wouldn't be standing around here, not where we are when the lions are doing this, but we could be sat on the road, which is just next to us, possibly watching them from a vehicle. And what they would then do is they'd probably all be backing up in here. It's a perfect site to be well. So you've then got a visual marking which will go on into the future, so this is like leaving not just a Facebook post. This is like sending somebody a proper message, okay, and that's going to stay then there into the future. You possibly put it on a this is my place, and everybody can see that, whether it's today or in 3 months' time. The spray is obviously, they're going to recognize that sort of visual marking, but then they can also come in and smell and see exactly where everybody is within their sort of cycles as well. Is there a dominant male around? Are there any females that would be receptive? Which females are there? Are there any youngsters around, etc., etc.? And that's, they would have spotted that, there's a marking here, let's go in and see a little bit about the detail. And that's where they'll then come in and sort of sniff in this area here. So very, very good type of marking there. So, you're wondering about animal senses, and if an animal lacks in one sense, would they make up for it in another? Well, absolutely. It's very similar to humans, where if somebody goes blind, for instance, your ears then would be very much more acute, and your senses and your hearing and your smell would become that much more acute. So if you do lose one sense, or one sense is a little bit less than another, you obviously become more acute in those other senses. And all we try out on bushwalk especially is try and heighten all of our senses. We need to listen very carefully. We need to smell for types of things like lions marking, maybe elephants, also in must. You smell that very musky smell of a bull elephant in must. Another one that we're smelling out for at the moment now is fresh popcorn, which is the smell of leopard urinating in a particular area. So that's the kind of smell that we're after at the moment. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, you just want to heighten everything. Heidi, the lions would be able to tell that I was there because they could probably smell my hands as I've put it over there. I've used some soap to wash my hands this morning, so maybe they would actually smell that. They'll be able to smell that a human was in that area near to where they marked. But that's not what they're interested in. That wouldn't particularly perturb them too much. They're more interested in finding out which other lions were around. That's more important for them. There goes a little button quail. Pangolin, I'm trying to think of an animal that has a worse sense of smell than humans, because a lot of animals out here, they have fantastic senses of smell, and sure, there's not many animals that have terrible senses like that. I'm thinking of an animal like a mole, but they've got good senses of smell, but some of them don't have eyes or ears, so they've got a good sense of smell, and they can also feel vibration. What else? Buffalo, elephant, lion, leopard, all these animals, very, very acute sense of smell, as well as all the antelope. That's one of their biggest senses out here. So maybe it would be a lot of the birds or the reptiles are also feeling and seeing a bit better. But I'm not exactly sure on what's got a worse sense of smell than us. Maybe some of the other guys, maybe David or Steve can comment there. And speaking of Steve, it seems like he's doing some bird accounting.
Welcome to Buffelshoek Dam. Perfect place to jump out the car for a quick coffee and a leg stretch. And we have found the mother goose with her 7 goslings in tow. But again today we do not see the second adult. We wonder, did James see him the last, or her? I'm not sure. I haven't seen 2 adults here the last 3 times I've been here, which is quite interesting. But this hippo in the water is taking a little bit of offense to me standing here, I think. This is his territory, and there were 6 of them a few weeks ago. Now, unless the others are world record holders in breath holding, they have yet to show themselves. So no, Ralph, I'm sorry, I don't really know too much about any animal that's got a worse sense of smell than we do. I mean, they reckon birds don't smell too much. They kind of have given up smell for sight. But then, proven fact, I have proven that and vultures can smell. Because we found kills that are underneath bushes. There's no way it was visible from the sky. And these birds are in the tree, close by, knowing that there's a kill under there. So that has got all to do with smell, without a doubt. But I think most birds have given up their sense of smell, primarily because they don't really need it. I'm not saying they don't have one, but their eyesight is unbelievable, and their sense of hearing. They hear all different types of frequencies. So what Ralph is saying there, if you give up one for the other, most definitely assists in certain things. But with regards to mammals, smell, very hard for me to say right now. I suppose you just got to look at the nostrils of something to figure out. I mean, rhino and elephant, I believe, have got enormous sense of smell. Azura, you get dams which are man-made. Basically, they'll dig out an area with a bit of a catchment and make a wall. And you get pans which are natural sort of drainage sections Fully, I don't know if you want to go. No, he's gone. Sorry, don't worry about it. We had a slender mongoose that was giving us a little eye, and he is now bolted off in the opposite direction, so I'm sorry for that. I'm enjoying my coffee here and spotting all the game. But a pan area where water accumulates. All these little these little mud wallows that we see, we've been looking at a few of them the last few days. It's basically just the depression in the ground where some animal has come along. There was a bit of a puddle, maybe an elephant track, and the puddle accumulated mud, and then the animal moved off with mud and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So they're naturally rain-fed pieces of ground or earth, generally with mud in the bottom, which holds the water. So that is a natural pan, and there are enormous pan systems up in Etosha and a place like that sort of up in the north of Namibia. An entire sort of inland lake, you could say, salt pan as well. Thousands or millions of flamingos in that area. So those are pans, those are naturally fed by rainfall and can cover enormous areas, and they generally are quite brackish and salty because the evaporation that takes place there leaves salt on the ground or in the water. Romit, I know that the Djuma, Waterhole Dam, there's a sort of a pan outside there that they fill with a pump, and there are a lot of places that will make natural pans and then fill them with a pump as a natural source of water to keep the water throughout the earth to prevent animals from perishing in the drought. But that's the only one I can think of in Djuma that gets fed with water. To logistically or ecologically increase the size of natural pans, they've got to happen on their own. So the one outside Djuma Lodge is kind of like a concrete made one to mimic a natural pan, but you're not allowed to actually increase pans anymore. It's all ecological, it's all about the footprints, it's all about putting water in areas permanently that probably shouldn't be there. So this is an ongoing debate that's been going for many, many years. So coming back down to the water. Michael, a new viewer, welcome to the show. The most dangerous mammal next to humans on the African continent, and this guy right here is no threat to me right now. I'm not causing him any discomfort or any stress. You can see he's able to immerse himself in the water, so he's comfortable. But the reason why hippo kill a lot of people in Africa is because a lot of Africa is still very rural. People don't have running water to their homes. They have to walk to and from dams to collect water for drinking, for washing their clothes, for all sorts of things, for cooking. And hippos make these enormous, beautiful paths to and from water, and that is the easiest and the most sort of logical route to take. A rural community walking down to the river to go get water with a big bucket on your head or a wheelbarrow. And what happens is that people are coming down. It's generally women and children, because they in the rural communities in Africa are the ones. They end up finding themselves in between the hippo and the dam or the river, and all the hippo wants to do is run down that pathway to get back into the water because he feels a little bit out of place out the water. And if a hippo 2,000 to 2,500 kilograms runs into you, chances are your injuries are going to be quite severe. And when you are living in quite rural areas, to get proper medical care is quite difficult. Also, there's a lot of people who fish. They walk into rivers and lakes and dams and they fish, and male hippos can be very territorial, and they will push people over. In one bite of a territorial male hippo, you will bleed to death, essentially. So it's just us moving into their environment. But other than that, I've never had too many issues with hippos, but you don't want to meet them on foot out here. And they're quite grumpy, and they can be particularly sort of funny creatures when they're out the water. And our pleasure, Michael. Feel free to send through your questions. Keep them coming. Michael, the reason we're looking at these geese here is that for the last few weeks we've been watching this family, and James Hendry is commenting that this is a very bad family. The parenting is very bad, but they've only lost one gosling in the last few weeks, and we're thinking it's the female, is doing a marvelous job with her 7 remaining chicks. And they're here every day. We're making a point to come and visit them at least every day to see what is happening. Ryan, no, hippos are completely vegetarian. They have been known to munch on animals from time to time, but not to eat them, purely because the animal gets into their space. I watched in the Timavati wild dogs chase an impala. The impala jumped into a dam swam all the way across through the pod of hippos, got to the other side, the wild dogs were waiting, it turned around and swam back, and then the hippo followed it, just like it's doing now, except the impala was swimming in front of it. Got to about that point there, it suddenly smashed it and took it under the water and never saw it again. So I still believe that that impala is still holding its breath and is winning the world record for a mammal. But the hippo didn't do it for meat. It's just, like I say, people maybe getting too close to a pod of hippos. The hippos take exception, and it doesn't take a lot for them to smash you out of a boat or to drown you. So they're very big, and you will come off second best if you do get too close to them. There we go. Look at the size of him. Look at the size of him. You can see he's standing there, not actually swimming. I'm going to go over to the other side. We saw him do this the other day. There we go. This is his pond. This is his water. Well, cheers, folks, from us and our Cook Dam. Let's go over to Ralph, who's found something quite small.
Well, everyone, we're still looking for the person who made this wonderful web. This is a tropical tent web spider's nest, and well, they build a nest that looks a little bit like a tent, the way that it's shaped. However, we're not finding the actual builder of this one, but it's quite interesting. These little guys, they exhibit something called negative geometry, because they hang on the underside of that particular web on the inside there. But now there's a couple of leaves that have dropped in just to make it sort of be inverted as it would normally be. So he hangs underneath there, and anything that then lands on top coming from this side, then he would be pulling it through the web. And then he's got what here, which starts to be all the leftover sort of carapaces and exoskeletons of all the little victims that he's had, or she's had mostly, that will be building these big nests like this. And very interesting that spiders exhibit external digestion, so they will be pumping their venom into their victim, and it literally liquidizes them. And so they leave them for a little while, and afterwards, then they just drink their food. So they out of their food, and they just literally drink it up. So very interesting indeed. And look how lovely, even a dead tree becomes a home to so many different animals. Aaron, you scared of spiders? Well, I am too, but I still find them fascinating. And they do help us keep away all the little pests as well that we find. So very important, even though I am scared of them. And as I was saying, a dead tree like this, so many different home. Now, Snazzy Zep, also, I say it is a very strange looking web, and the tropical tent do make a very different kind of web compared to a lot of the spiders that make their webs a little bit more vertically. But, well, everything out here in the bush is a way of doing things, because there's always a possibility that if you do things differently, you might find that it works because nobody else is doing it, and so you're quite successful. It's like tree here. There's one animal that uses a very dead tree like this with its hollow nature, with that noise over there like that, and that is the bearded woodpecker. He'll use that, and he'll come. I'll try and mimic it, but it's not quite as fast. He does a da-ra-ta-ta-ta-ta. See, nice hollow branch you would find like that, and with his bill, with absorbers in the back of his bill, otherwise he'd be giving himself concussion each time he did it. He will be tapping on there, making a very hollowed, resonating sound that sort of resonates through the bush. You often hear those bearded woodpeckers making that noise. I can't do it fast enough. But nonetheless, there will also be all sorts of other little creatures on the inside of these hollow branches. So once these trees die off, doesn't mean that that's the end of it, because they really make all sorts of little cavities and other animals. Looks like the wood-boring beetles have had a wonderful time here, eating away a lot of the bark as well. And, well, I'm sure that there could be some squirrels living in there. Even when you get bigger cavities, you have babies, you have genets. They will go in. They like a little bit more the sort of cavities that you get in the marulas, etc. But something small like this could be home to all sorts, from snakes to spiders to mammals, with the genets and the bush babies, etc. So it's absolutely fascinating. Don't think just because a tree has died that it has lost its use. Now, wisteria, well, we generally don't use too much of the wood here. It gets left alone in the bush because it's not really sustainable. Taking all these kind of dead trees and just using it for firewood. There will be a little bit used, but we prefer to leave it in the bush like this because of the kind of ecosystems that are created around dead trees like this. What we prefer to do is use exotic invader plants. So where we've got areas that are taken over by wattle or eucalyptus or oak trees or any of the exotic plants, we'll rather use that for firewood. So I think we need to try and still work out this mystery of where Thandi and Tlalamba have been the most recently. I think Steve, he's also trying. I'm not sure if he's still on the case, but he's in the area. Let's see how he's going on.
Yes, we are indeed, and the mystery continues. We are going to come back down. We're right up on the north now. We're going to come down on the eastern boundary, back onto Chitwa, where I think Herbie and Ralph are still working, and see what mysteries we can determine from what is going on there. Definitely male leopard and female leopard up and down. The female leopard tracks are seem to have been Thandi's. Herbie tracked her all the way back to where we were and when we turned around. But I decided to get off of that road so that I could give him more sort of freedom without driving all over the place. Amazing how quickly you can destroy the signs of a leopard by driving if you're not paying too much attention. We were paying attention, but when it's going up and down like that, it gets very difficult to know which is the fresher of the two. But we're going to come down from the north now, and we'll probably bump into the bushhawk team again. And if they're hitchhiking, I don't think we're going to give them a lift. They've got a long way to walk back, but that's okay. They're all young, fit, strong individuals. But Ryan, invasive mammals in the park survive. You do get dogs, domestic dogs that come through, and they are potentially an enormous threat for wild dog and jackal because of canine distemper. Because a lot of domestic dogs that are in and around reserves don't receive the inoculations when they are younger. So there's quite big initiatives with international companies and students and whatever. They come through, veterinary students, for example, they come through and they neuter or spade dogs for free. They'll have like tents outside communities, and they'll give all the inoculations and do all the sort of the neutering and spading of dogs and cats. They can be a problem, but they don't really survive dogs coming in. They get eaten. Leopards and lions will eat them, no problem, but it doesn't eliminate the problem. They do get in, they've got a disease, there's a problem there. But one of the biggest issues can be domestic cats, because they have the potential to hybridize with our wild African wildcats here. Their genetics with African wild severe risk because of that. And from a bird point of view, no birds are able to compete here. The Indian myna, which is naturalized, is now called the common myna, that came from India in the late 80s. It's now a naturalized bird. You find it throughout South Africa in all the cities, but it is highly competed against here by the starlings and the rollers and what else? The fork-tailed drongos. So I've yet to see a Indian myna this side. So Folks, I'm terribly sorry. We seem to be having a bit of freeze frame. We're just going to quickly reboot the system. We'll be back momentarily.